Hello, welcome to Seminar 3 of the Change for Good programme. Hope you enjoy it. So, are you finding weight release challenging at the moment? I hear quite a lot that this becomes more of an issue the older we get. And being overweight tends to be a hormonal issue rather than a calorie imbalance issue. So our body will strive to maintain our set weight, and that's based on our hunger levels and our metabolism, and it will adjust either if to try and maintain us at that set weight. So the good thing is that you can reset it, and the first thing that we need to do is to address insulin, which, as you know, is part of this programme, and that was explained in week 1. So insulin is a big thing that we need to look at, and high insulin levels increases our set weight. So when people eat a huge amount of carbohydrates, then generally, or a huge amount of sugar and carbohydrates, then generally this hunger metabolism adjustment has been set so that our weight is at a much higher level than it should normally be. So insulin promotes fat storage. It's the fat storing hormone, as I've told you before. And excess fructose can cause insulin resistance in just 6 days, which is one of the reasons why I encourage people to move to the green section as much as possible of the fructose chart and avoid some of those, particularly those high starchy and sugary carbohydrates later in the day in particular. So to overcome insulin resistance, then you really have to have a break from eating, and this is why this programme is based on having periods of time without eating. Apple cider vinegar can help to overcome insulin resistance, and that's one of the things that lots of my clients do. They include that within their water allowance every meal time or over the day, and that helps to break down and overcome some of the insulin resistance that's happening in the cells. Also, to build muscle mass, I don't always recommend that people do a lot of what I call the high aerobic type work, because anything that causes an additional stress to the body, then if we're already stressed through the foods that we're eating or perhaps our lifestyle, then we'll find that it's too much stress for the body to deal with, and that can have a big knock-on effect with our thyroid. So I encourage that you build more muscle mass, and I like to do weights because of that. So things like body pump or just using additional weights at home, just to build up that extra muscle mass, which will improve our metabolism and help our insulin resistance. So reducing stress, it's easy, isn't it? Just to say that, let's reduce stress. But that's why hypnosis is a big part of this programme. So keep listening to your hypnosis and find out what works for you. So are you hungry? Most of us are not really hungry when we wake up in the morning because we're completely out of tune with our hunger hormones. So I want you to start thinking over the next few weeks, when you wake up in the morning, how hungry are you? Because if you're not hungry in the morning, this is generally because cortisol, that long-term stress hormone, is gearing us up for action rather than eating. So what used to happen is that most people would go out and hunt for their food and then eat later in the day. So cortisol would be generally high first thing in the morning. I do find, though, those people who have been under a lot of stress over numerous years, that we can find that cortisol actually is low in the morning because they've got no get up and go, no energy, and that's basically adrenal fatigue. So that needs to be addressed in a different way, and that can sometimes mean why people wake up in the morning and feel hungry because they're just low in energy. So but if all hormones are starting to balance, then really cortisol should be at its highest in the morning, and that should be encouraging us then to get into action rather than eating mode. So morning hunger tends to be a learned behaviour. You know, we've always been fed as a baby first thing in the morning when we've awoken, and that tends to be a learned behaviour that we've adopted. So what I want to say is, if you're not hungry, then don't eat. Because if you're not hungry, then it proves that your cortisol levels are fairly balanced, in that they're high in the morning, and also it proves that maybe you're eating a little bit too much late at night. So maybe your body needs a little bit more time to actually feel more relaxed and then ready to eat, and then, you know, the hormones are balanced out better. So maybe using a hunger scale would be a great idea. And you know, I like to think, you know, if on a 0 to 10 scale, if my hunger is, hold on a second, sorry about that, I'm back with you now. So yes, a hunger scale is a great idea, maybe on a 0 to 10 scale. So is hunger, you know, 8 or above, then that would be a great format for you then to start thinking, yes, now's the time to eat. If you're really hungry, always eat, because that's showing that ghrelin is kicked in and you're really hungry and you're ready to eat, and we don't want your blood sugar to balance, you know, and fall too low, otherwise that will have a detrimental effect. So remember that all foods stimulate insulin release. It's not just carbohydrates. So high protein and high fat stimulate insulin release, but fat actually is the least to stimulate insulin. So if I'm thinking I really need something to eat, it's not like me, it's you know, I don't tend to snack, but if I've been exercising a lot and I come back and I'm really hungry and I think, what can I have that will make me feel better without really causing a huge insulin spike in between meals? And so something like half an avocado would work. So that would make you, it's a high fat but good fat food, and that can be filling and satisfying, but it's not going to raise your blood sugar hugely, which is good. So the more often we eat, the more we encourage insulin resistance. So maximum of 3 meals a day is ideal, and then if you find that you're not hungry in the morning and you can go a little bit longer and maybe have brunch and then an evening meal, and that suits you, lots of my clients find that that works really well for them. Up to you. We're all individual, so you'll find out what works for you. So carbohydrates mainly produce the most insulin in the body, and that, if we're overeating and it's more than our portion size, if you remember the size of your stomach, so if it's more than that size, then it's not going into short-term storage, or it is going into short-term storage, but that's full up, so it's stored then as fat. So insulin resistance keeps our insulin levels high, and high insulin maintains our high body set weight. So we want you to lose weight, obviously, and that you then lose weight, go into maintenance mode, and then, you know, your set weight is reducing. So this erodes our weight loss efforts, and as I mentioned, this hunger and metabolism balance, and we need to break that insulin resistance cycle. And the way to do that is with periods of no or very low insulin levels. So that's why we have those breaks without food. So glucose and fat are our main sources of energy, and this is why sometimes if people take out all fat from their diet, they feel really quite tired and sluggish. And the same sometimes when we take out all sugars from our diet. If we're not eating, you know, through maybe a gentle detox, we decide one day we're going to take out everything, not just sugars, but really low on carbohydrates, and just stick with salads and things like that, and not the starchy carbohydrates, then we may have a little bit of a dip in energy. So we have to be aware of that, and that's why I don't recommend the Atkins diet type approach long term, because I think people's energy levels drop too low. So our body responds well without periods of food, and then it will burn fat. So it's a good thing to do occasionally, if not every day on a sort of routine type basis. So if our insulin levels fall, then our glycogen stores, that's our short-term storage capacity in our liver and our muscles, are used up. And that's what we want, because if they're used up, our fat storage then goes to our short-term storage to give us that energy for us to keep going. So if that happens, you maintain your muscle mass, because you're not using your muscle mass for energy, you're basically getting it from your fat stores, which is great. So then we lose weight. So that's the way to do it. So periods of not eating reduces our appetite, and lots of people who do my program say to me, I can't believe that I'm not hungry. And that's quite a revelation, because most people think that they're eating less because they're not snacking constantly and grazing through the day. So most diets don't really address this insulin resistance, and that's because most include snacking. And I think that's probably the biggest issue for most other type of diets, if you want to call it a diet. So I would suggest starting gently, and if you're not hungry on waking, then avoid or delay your breakfast. And then don't let your blood glucose drop too low, and you'll know when that happens, because not only will you get that grumbling in your stomach with ghrelin telling you it's time to eat, but also you'll start to have your energy levels dropping. You might get a little bit irritable, you might feel a little bit lightheaded. So we don't want that to happen. We don't want it to drop too low, because that's not good for you either, and that will make you crave more carbohydrates, which we don't want either. So get in tune now with your hunger hormones and really think about what you can do to really understand how your hormones are personally affecting you. So now we want to go on to some behaviours and habit changes. We talked about this last week, and I asked you to come up with at least one behaviour or habit that you'd really like to change. Because what happens is that you have like a key habit or behaviour, and once we identify and work on that and get it to change to be in line with your new healthy lifestyle programme, then others fall in line behind it. It's a little bit like a concertina effect, and that's again what we want, this sort of domino type effect that we can have. So the three behaviours we mentioned last week were automatic behaviour, an all-consuming or burning behaviour, and that common behaviours that we have. So habits, our brain is constantly looking for ways to make tasks easy for us. And it's a bit like our car. If you've ever driven an automatic car, you're amazed how easy it is to drive an automatic compared to a manual, which obviously requires a lot more effort and a lot more brain power, whereas an automatic is literally just holding the steering wheel and going where you want to, so it's very easy. So the brain does the same thing. It basically turns repeated behaviours into habits, and the repetition is the key. So every day doing the same thing at the same time at the same place becomes a daily routine, and then the mind shuts that off and says, oh, that's a habit, you just do that. So every time you see that shop, every time you see that coffee shop, every time you see that garage, you go along and do the same behaviour, and it becomes an automatic type habit, behaviour, routine. And the more you stick with that, then the more ingrained those habits become. So if we can make your habits ingrained but in a healthy way, then as you can see, it becomes an automatic behaviour, which is what we want. So the solutions for dealing with those three types of behaviours and habits are these, and they're different ones particularly help specific types of habits. So I'll tell you what they all are first, and then I'll show you how it can be used for one of the three types. So stepping stones, that's mini goals or taking a mini step, and that's why I do our tick list. So I encourage people to put 3 or 6 things, mini things that you can do each week, and that tick list is like a stepping stone. It's moving in the right direction without putting too much stress and not focusing too much on that big overall goal that can sometimes be a bit daunting. The other one is a support group. You're part of this support group with me, and having people around you doing what you want to be doing is really, really supportive, comfortable, feel safe, a safe environment, and is going to help you to achieve what you want. So then there's important, and this is because we do things because they're important to us. And I ask you, okay, what is your goal and why? Why do you want to do that? Why is it important? And sometimes those results can be a little bit airy-fairy. They're not particularly, they don't tell me how important it is, and it's only when we really make sure that it's the key thing of importance for us that the weight starts to come off, because we start to believe, and that importance makes it much easier for us to make that habit change. So why is weight release important to you? I want you to keep thinking about why it is, because that might differ as you go through this program. And this seeing yourself as your future slim, healthy, vibrant, powerful self is a wonderful way to pull you in the right direction. So solutions are, it's got to be easy. We do things that are easy. If it's easy for you not to change, then you'll do that. So 3 ways to make things easy are to control your environment, so not be surrounded by all those things that make it really challenging. And if things are in a let's say, for example, you're in a school or a hospital, and in the staff room there's always things that are tempting, then I want you to avoid that room as much as you can. Move away from where everything is, so you sit the other side of the room. So don't make it easy for you. If you're right next to things, that makes it too easy. So limit choices, and that's why I like people to come up with 7 days worth of foods. So come up with a plan and then stick to that plan. So you've got limited choices, the food in the fridge, food that you take for lunch, all those things are just ready there, and it limits how much pressure you put on yourself because your choices are limited. And then have that plan and routine. So a routine is great. My food intake is pretty dull, probably, in that I quite like the foods that I eat them on a regular basis. So that's my routine. So it makes the thought process, I go into automatic mode and think, that's what I'm having for lunch. Having soup today, chicken, cracker, and something on it like sardines. So it's really easy. I don't try and overcomplicate things. For me, I just have to do things quick and easy, and that suits me. So having no junk food in the house is a great thing, or if you have it, don't make it easy, put it further away. It's more hassle for you to try and get to it, so it's easier to avoid it. If you want to go to the gym, then you're close to a gym. No point driving 40 minutes to a gym, because that's not easy. That makes it much more challenging, and as soon as an excuse comes up, we take the easy option. So mind change. This is because we do things based on how we feel or think about ourselves. And if we feel that we're a failure, or we're a fighter, or we're a completer, those sort of things, then we'll do things to fit in line with what our self-belief is. So to change small things to behaviour, that's the way that our mind follows. So focus on your behaviours first and your mind will follow. And then we have to do things more than once. So that's why your tick list is really an action list. So that will enable you to start behaving in a different way, and then your mind will accept it and start to make it a new habit. Rewarding. We keep doing things because we feel rewarded for doing them. And that's why sometimes people like a quick fix. And even though I don't recommend quick fixes, I've got my 14-day detox program, and that for some people is really, really focused, effective, because it gives them that feeling, I can do this. Yes, I've done it for 14 days. It's been so easy. I feel so amazing. Now I'm going to continue with a new plan, but just tweaking what I've done before so that it's mini changes that I know are realistic for me and my lifestyle. So mini goals, achievements, those sort of things, the tick list again keeps coming back. It works for so many habits and behavioural changes. Ingrained, repeatedly doing something that is good for you. It makes it easier for you to keep doing them. So repeating and repeating and repeating. So don't think you've done it once, yeah, that's going to continue and that's going to become my new habit. It won't work. So your new habit has to be an ingrained behaviour. So replace that behaviour with a new one by using the above powerful forces. So these that I've mentioned today are really, really important to making that long-term change. So solutions then for automatic behaviours, these are the priorities. You have to make it easy for any more automatic behaviour and you have to make it ingrained. So let's say, for example, you had an automatic behaviour of if you're sat next to a sweet bowl, you will just continue to keep having the sweet bowls. So don't make it too easy for you. You have to make it easier to do what you do want. So if, let's say, for example, what you would rather be doing is going out for a quick walk. So by the side of the sofa, where normally you've got that bowl of sweets, are your trainers. So it's easy for you to sit down, put your trainers on and then go for a walk. Okay, and then make it ingrained. Then start to come up with a habit. Put it in your diary. What days, what times you're going to do something specific. If it's exercise or if it's eating, then you know when, 4 to 6 hours for foods. Just do it as an ingrained behaviour, and that's how we overcome automatic behaviours. All consuming, all those burning desires, this is the binge eating type behaviour that can affect loads of us. Then it's slightly more challenging, so we have to do not only the easy, make it easy for ourselves, do an ingrained repetition of a new behaviour, but we also focus on our mind change and rewarding. So we look at something that makes us feel better, and so focus on those. So see if you've got any burning behaviours. That will help. And then the common behaviour, this is where we have to go everything at it. This is where we have to use a support group to overcome those behaviours, share your experiences, use those stepping stones. The tick list is a really good idea. Share it with me if you don't want to share it with the whole of the group, making it an important. This goal, this behaviour that I want to change is important to me, and this is why I'm going to do it. Make it easy, rewarding, and then ingrained. So you can see that actually once we come up with a real solution to overcome these challenges, then you make the biggest changes ever. So let's take changing a common behaviour. Let's say that the behaviour that you want to change is trying to stick with a gym routine. Because we're in January, a lot of people I've noticed come first 2 weeks of January, and do they stick at it? No, they don't. So this is how you could make it an easier goal to stick at. So a support group. So exercising with friends is great. So not doing it alone. So it's less easy for you to move away from that. So once you become part of a social group, maybe doing a group class and getting to know the people in the group, say, shall we go for a coffee afterwards? It's another way of changing that behaviour because you're using a support mechanism that's going to get you there. Stepping stones, starting gradually. When people join a gym for a year, I think that's such a big mistake. Why don't you start with small steps? It could be that you're just going to do a short course of personal training. It could be that you just want to go for walks with a friend. It could be that you're just going to do something at home with a friend. Or fill in MyFitnessPal with a friend, so that you've got a buddy who is helping you, and it's just taking those gradual steps. Important. Focus on why it's a priority. Is it health concerns that make it a priority? Is it something to do with something in your lifestyle that could change once you've achieved this weight? Is it that you'll feel different? Is it that your job might be different? Is it that you'll have the enthusiasm or the energy to do something completely different? What makes it important to you? And then, is it easy? So if it's a gym, for example, there's no point in having that long journey. Make it close to home, that sort of thing. Rewarding, when friends start to notice how your fitness is improving and you're looking better and you're feeling better. So share that with the people that you know. Don't just keep it quiet if you're feeling better. Just keep, taking that personal reward for the effort that you're doing. Ingrained, booking ahead if it's a class, making sure it's in the diary because you're less inclined not to go, making it a routine, building a routine, and that causes that stickability so that you keep with it. So that's how you would overcome a changed behaviour. So work on one behaviour at a time. Identify a behaviour that you feel could make a big difference to you, and then keep working on changing it using the tick list and making it a new routine. So you've got a new behaviour that you want to have part of your life, and make that the new routine. And then work on another until all the changes are ingrained in your new future. So beliefs that can make change difficult, and these are the ones that, particularly in my hypnotherapy sessions, I hear so much. They may not put them in these words, but this is basically what they're saying. I really am not enough. I really don't feel lovable enough. I don't feel interesting enough. I don't feel successful enough. I don't feel attractive enough. Part of me sabotages myself. I have this fear of rejection. I don't fit in. I don't feel I deserve it. What I want isn't available to me. I feel different. And I don't know if there's anything on there that resonates with you, but when I started this journey, there were a lot on there that I believed. And these beliefs can make change really challenging. So I want you to use your hypnosis recording this week. I love this recording in that it really works on those behaviours so that it builds up your self-belief and overcomes those beliefs that perhaps have been holding us back. And when you listen whilst you're relaxed, and you don't, some people say to me, I can't listen to it when I'm going to bed, or I don't want my husband to know what I'm doing, or I want to do it slightly differently. And I said, okay, what do you do that's really peaceful and quiet? And a client this week said, oh, well, I sew. So I said, you could listen to it while you're sewing, because as you see, it doesn't necessarily mean that you've got to have your eyes closed to be in hypnosis. Because if you're doing something that takes you into the alpha theta brainwaves, like sewing, like painting, then you can listen to it then, because you will still accept those messages because you're in a relaxed state. So you can't do if you're doing the cleaning at home, or heaven forbid, never listen to it if you're in the car and you're driving. But if you're in a really calm, relaxed state, and you can feel your breathing is really gentle and controlled and calm, then that is when you're going into alpha theta state, and that's when your subconscious opens up to accept these really wonderful beliefs and suggestions. So this recording, as I mentioned, focuses on boosting your self-belief, and it also looks at giving you a protective shield to feel safe and secure, so that anything negative, which can influence us a lot, anything from the outside world, comments from people, our own thoughts about different things, I wonder what she's thinking of me, that sort of thing. All those things, what we want them to do is to bounce off this protective shield, or what I use personally as a bubble, so that they don't go into me. Inside I'm safe, secure and protected, but outside anything that is negative or going to hold me back bounces off back to the person or thing that it came from, so it's not affecting me personally. So then we're going to boost your motivation and determination for healthy living, and you'll develop that new healthy mindset. So please keep listening to this, it will really help you. So foods that are not great for us. There are not really any bad foods. I move away from this being good and bad, because I don't believe that we should be talking in that way. But some things don't make us feel great, have you probably noticed? And they can sabotage our success, but we still eat and drink them, even though we know that's what they're doing. They can make us feel tired and bloated. You must have experienced this in the past. And they are what I like to call an energy toxic. So they just drain us of energy. And but they also encourage us to eat more of the same things, because sometimes we think, oh, our energy's dipped, so we need more to make us feel better. So we need to be aware of that. So they can be a food intolerance, or they can just be zapping our energy. So there are certain foods that do that. So some signs then of energy toxin or food intolerance: difficulty losing weight. We crave these foods. So if you're craving something like cheese or dairy or bread, then just be conscious of that and wonder why that is. So we can feel bloated, water retention, things feeling tight, feel fatigued, feel irritable, feel low. We can procrastinate, and that's a really interesting symptom of this sort of toxic type foods. We can sleep poorly. We can have poor digestion, constipation, and those sort of things. So histamine, this is basically if we eat when we're, many of us do eat when we're stressed, and certain foods contain a lot of histamine. So these foods trigger inflammation in our body, especially if we're under a lot of stress. And inflammation is the thing that we really want to avoid as much as we can. So histamine produces bloating, hot flushes, runny, stuffy nose, feeling cold all the time, anxiety, depression, those sort of symptoms. And all foods that contain some histamine, but if you consume a diet that's really high in foods with high levels of histamine, then your body becomes overwhelmed. So it's a good thing to perhaps look for a few days to go low histamine foods. And in your handout that you've got today, they tend to be mainly vegetarian type foods. So sometimes to go vegetarian, high protein, so using your beans and pulses and those sort of things, but lots and lots of vegetables can help us to reduce the histamine and the inflammation in our body. And then if we do that, then we can feel that our energy levels improve. So for health and weight loss, then we need to choose foods and drinks that are not toxic to us. And we'll all be completely individual in this. So if you choose what's good for you, then you'll feel energised and make healthier decisions. And we need to heal our gut to do that. So if you do have a food intolerance, for example, then if our gut is what we call leaky, in that it lets the food that is irritating it into our bloodstream, that causes further inflammation. And that's how food intolerances start to be born. So we need to take away any specific toxic foods that may be not helping us, and then add maybe a good quality probiotic supplement to heal our gut, so that if we eat it in a future date, then we're not going to get the same reaction. So let's look at testing our body to see what food perhaps affects you and causes some low energy. So I won't show you this because otherwise I'll stand up and you won't be able to see me. But basically this is the way to do it. So you stand with your feet parallel, about 9 inches apart, and then you keep your back straight but not rigid, just standing to attention almost. And then look forward or close your eyes. And then keep repeating in your head the word yes, 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 yes. Do that now. Just stand up, feet a little bit apart, look forward or close your eyes and say yes, 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 yes. And take note, because you will move in one direction or the other. Do you move forward or do you move backward? Okay, do it again. Yes, 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 yes. Okay, make a note of which way you moved. Generally you move forward, but not all people, so you're all individual. And now say no, and what you will do is move in the opposite direction to what you moved for yes. So you'll generally move backwards. So close your eyes, and that's no, 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 no. Good. So that shows then forward, maybe for yes, backwards for no. So then we're going to test some certain foods, and this is something you can do at home. I like to do it blind testing because I think we're very much influenced by what we think. So I put them in a tiny little glasses of the food. I would keep my eyes shut and I would grab a glass, not knowing what's in it, and I would put it on near my thymus gland here. So I would put it near my chest, probably touching the skin rather than through material. So, and then do the same. Is this food good for me? And you want to know if it's yes or no, so see which way you move forward. Is this good for me to eat? Is this good for me? Is this good for me? And then, is it taking you away, backwards or forward? It's okay. And then I would do the other one. So I generally test every 3 or 4 months because we have different reactions at different times of the year to certain foods, and I always tend to look at wheat and dairy, so cheese and bread, and then I would test some other things, sometimes things like eggs I test. Sugar, I would know how I would react to sugar. So, but I do test sometimes like dark chocolate just to see how that's affecting me, and specific fruits if I'm having, quite a lot of different fruits. So if I'm sticking with, say, oranges, morning and lunchtime, then I'd perhaps test those occasionally. So whatever things you tend to have a lot of in your diet, or perhaps things that you've avoided for a long time and you want to see whether you're still having a reaction to it. So it makes decisions far easier anyway, and improves weight loss if we can eat foods that are good for us and helping us to lose and release weight. The mobile technique, I love this because I use this a lot. And this is where you rub your finger and thumb together very, very gently. So gently, minimal pressure. It's almost as though you're just doing this with a baby's face. You're hardly touching it. Very, very gently, and you're rubbing it together. Very, very gently. So now with that minimal pressure, I want you to do the same test. So I want you to think, yes, 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 yes. When I do that, it goes really smooth. And now say no, 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 and that goes really sticky, and you can feel that friction and that resistance. Are you feeling that? Takes a little time. Sometimes you need to do it quietly on your own, but I promise you'll feel a difference. Yes, 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 that's smooth. No, no, really quickly, no, it goes really sticky and resistant. Then you do that with the foods. So it's a very simple test. So again, I would do a blind test as much as you can, but I do use it when I'm eating out. So if I think, which should I choose? Is that choice better for me, or is that choice better for me? What would I go? Should I choose that on the menu? And see if it's smooth or there's friction, because our bodies know what's good for us, and then be guided by that. Shopping, all sorts of things like that. It's a great mobile technique that I love, and keep practicing it. I promise you it works. So a little bit of homework then is for you to keep testing those foods, blind testing as far as you can, or a family member can do it so that you can keep your eyes closed so you don't know what food is being tested. And then really get in tune with your hunger hormones again. Start to say, am I hungry when I wake up in the morning, or could I wait a little bit longer if I take something with me so that I've got something ready for when I am hungry? And then work on one behaviour. Change it until that becomes a new routine. Work on those individual things that will help to make it a much more powerful change in behaviour and habit. So identify any food intolerances and avoid those as much as you can if there are any, and then take a probiotic to repair your gut, because that would be a great thing. And if you need any help, give me a call and I will give you some guidance on which would be a good one for you. Listen to the new hypnosis recording, and then I'll see you at the next session. Don't forget open house sessions here as well if they will help you, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.